As we know, the Supreme Court is weighing whether President Trump has the authority to impose tariffs. And it comes after two lower courts deemed the tariffs were an overreach of power by the president because they were imposed without congressional approval.
Now, President Trump is warning that a Supreme Court ruling against his tariffs would be devastating. Truth Social, the president posting the U.S. Supreme Court was given the wrong numbers. The unwind in the event of a negative decision on tariffs would be including investments made to be made and return of funds in excess of $3 trillion. It would not be possible to ever make up for that kind of drubbing. That would truly become an insurmountable national security event and devastating to the future of our country, possibly non-sustainable. Judge Andrew Napolitano is our senior judicial analyst here to weigh in on this. Can you talk to us about this? The number, we can have questions about how they came to how the president came to $3 trillion.
Right.
But aside from that, can you talk about this case and the president's position on this one here?
Sure. So all the paperwork is submitted, and there was the oral argument. We talked about it many times. That was just a week ago. Now the president is considering correcting the numbers that were put in the government submission. He wants to tell the Supreme Court, if you rule against me on tariffs and if you make that ruling retroactive, it'll be devastating to the country. I don't know where he came up with the number, but let's assume the number. He can demonstrate how he came up with it. It would cost the country $3 trillion. There's a number of problems with that. First, the Supreme Court is an appellate court. It's not a trial court. It doesn't take fresh evidence. It can only rule on the evidence that was before the trial court and before the appeals court. So it would be most improper to give the Supreme Court something now that the lower courts didn't have. Second, and this is more crucial in my opinion, in the oral argument, you remember this, the government lawyer, John Sauer, a very, very intelligent, highly respected lawyer who's the Solicitor General of the United States, he represents the federal government before the Supreme Court, argued that the tariffs were not about money, they were about foreign policy. If you make them about money, if you emphasize this money argument, you will undermine that argument that he made. Why did he make that argument? If tariffs are about money, they're taxes, and only Congress can tax. If tariffs are about foreign policy, that's the president's bailiwick, and the court can't interfere with it. So he's probably debating with the president, not literally, personally, but with someone in the White House right now. Don't make us submit this stuff about $3 trillion. It's going to deflect the court's attention from my argument that tariffs are about foreign policy into what the president wants us to say, that tariffs are about money. We all know they're about money, but if they, of course,
right. Yes,
they've only collected, according to Secretary Bessent on with Rob last night, between 200 and 230 billion. A lot of money, nowhere near $3 trillion. But if you emphasize the money aspect, you undermine the foreign policy argument.
It seems like in some recent Truth Socials, he's leaning into the national security catastrophe and also the foreign policy element and the trillions of dollars that it would rack up. So he's doing a little bit of combining both of them. For time's sake, Judge, I wanted to ask you about the government shutdown and SNAP benefits here and how the Supreme Court is ruling on this, extending a short-term order. It allows the Trump administration to withhold paying for full food stamp payments in November. Comes after Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson issued an administrative stay last Friday. What does this all mean?
It means that the stay exists until 11:59 tomorrow night because the Supreme Court knows what's going on across the street from it in the Capitol building, and they expect the government to be open by then. Now, can the money get to the people who don't have money to put food on their tables? It goes from the federal government to the 50 states, and from the 50 states, the states are just agents here. It's not their money.
Right.
And from the 50 states to the recipients, it's all done electronically. Can the federal government give that money to the states now? No, not until 11:59 tomorrow night, whatever happens first. Either 11:59 happens or President Trump signs a new budget opening the Congress. Whichever happens first will trigger the flow of the funds.
And SNAP will be good through the majority of next year versus the government being funded only to January 30th.
Correct.
With this signing. Judge Andrew Napolitano weighing in. Always good to see you, Judge.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Judge.